Would you care to enter into a moment of meditation and reflection with me? Dear gracious, eternal, divine Spirit, great I am, allow your servant to be a vessel for your truth, for your Spirit to teach us the things where words fall short. Amen. Now, reading today comes from Leviticus. Now, I know that's everyone's favorite chapter in the Bible, right? This super harsh reality of what it means to come together and live in the community. It's kind of the ancient equivalent of a harsh parent saying, hey, the world is tough. Get used to it. Life is unfair. Get used to it. Yet in this law, in this chapter, we find a nugget of compassion. In Leviticus chapter 19, verses 33 through 34, it reads, "When an alien resides with you in your land, you shall not oppress the alien. The alien who resides with you shall be to you as the citizen among you. You shall love the alien as yourself, for you were aliens in the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God." Now, does anyone have a best friend in their life? Someone they can identify as being super, super close to them. It could be a childhood friend, it could be a partner, it could be a pet or your children. Anyone whose joys you feel as your own and whose sorrows you also feel as your own. I certainly have that. My high school best friend also became my college roommate, and after finishing undergrad, we traveled through Europe together. It was the pinnacle of our relationship and the pinnacle of our lives at that time. We went to Europe, we traveled around, I didn't think we could become any closer, but we became so, so close. He is a brother in every sense of the word. So we traveled through Europe. We had this amazing experience. We meet amazing people, eat awesome food, drink incredible wine, all on a really, really tight budget as post-grads. And I got back to the States the night before he did. I flew back to Miami, stayed the night, and the next morning got up to go pick him up. And having been separated from my best friend for a day, I was so excited to be with him again, to be reunited, and to just talk and share and laugh about this experience that we had just had. And so I get to the airport, and I start, driving around, waiting for him. I text him, I say, hey, give me a call, when you land, so that I can, know where that you're at and pick you up. And a half an hour goes by, an hour goes by, and I'm starting to get a little worried. An hour and a half after his flight had landed, I start getting calls from his family. Have you heard from him? Where is he? What's going on? I thought that he had made good on one of the many drunken promises we made to each other to never come home and just to stay in Europe where we were having such a great time. But I was genuinely worried about him. Finally, 3 hours after his flight landed, I get a call from him. I'm like, man, I thought you went back to Spain. He has a Spanish passport. He also has an Argentina passport. I thought you went back to live in Spain. He was like, I can't believe what I have to tell you. He had been detained. He had been pulled aside when he was coming back into the country, set in a room, not told anything, for 3 hours, and then released without any explanation of what was going on. Now, this happening to my best friend, this kind of hurt me. Why was he being treated this way? Why was this insensible act being inflicted upon him? The NSA called it a matter of national security. He called it prejudice. For me, it seemed inherently evil that this thing had happened. Now, it was easy for me to see this individual act as evil. And it took years of maturing and many classes at ILIF and a lot of deconstruction to remove this as an individual act of evil inflicted upon by one person. After all, they were just doing their job, and realize that their actions were a reflection of an evil that permeates our society, an evil that tends to other and set ourselves as greater than someone else, an evil that inflicts fear into the hearts and minds of natural comrades, natural sisters and brothers, who should be united rather than pulled apart. Which brings us to one thing that we do know about evil. It's elusive. It escapes our intellectual grasps, sometimes even our emotional grasps. Oftentimes, we can only see evil in the aftermath that it leaves after a horrific incident. Now, Lance Morrow is a reporter for Time magazine. He covered the 1967 Detroit race riots, the Vietnam War, the Nixon administration, and the Watergate scandal, as well as the attacks on 9/11. This is someone who has stared evil in the face. And so he wrote a book called Evil in Investigation. And he says in this book, it is ultimately not possible to understand evil. Evil has made a successful career over many centuries by persuading people that it does not exist. Now, when we think of evil, we like to think of this really clear dichotomy between the good guys and the bad guys. We're obsessed with fantasy movies where the good guys are these knights in shining armor, beautiful flowing hair, incredible beards, with long swords who fight green, slimy, snarling monsters, right? We like for it to be that clear. We would like for evil to be so easy to see and so triumphantly destroyed. But it's not that way in real life. The Russian novelist Alexander Solzhenitsyn, who was an opponent of the Soviet Union and totalitarianism, says, if only it were all so simple. If only there were evil people somewhere insidiously committing evil deeds, and it were necessary only to separate them from the rest of us and destroy them. But the line dividing good and evil cuts through the heart of every human being. And who is willing to destroy a piece of his own heart? It's a scary thought, isn't it? To think that evil isn't the snarling green monster, but it's something that lies within. And so it is within that we must look, to our own evil desires. It was within that I had to look at the fact that I was apathetic to societal's response on immigrants when this happened to my friend. It only struck me as evil because it happened to someone that I was so close to. Because it happened to someone whom I could see myself in. In Scripture, we learn it's not only an inward desire to other ourselves, but also to be greater than someone else. In Luke 9, Jesus, when getting really frustrated by this vain argument among his disciples about who among them is the greatest, picks up a child, puts it on his lap, and says, whoever welcomes this child in my name welcomes me. And whoever welcomes me welcomes the one who sent me. For the least among you is the greatest. The least among you is the greatest. Now, I don't think he was saying this as being a part of reality, that there is a least among you. But he's saying, who is society telling you is the least among you? Who is society telling us is the least among us? Let's shout it out. What do you guys think? Who is the least among us right now?
The homeless?
The homeless. Muslims. Undocumented. The alien still manifests that position of the least among us. Yet in Leviticus, in this harsh reality about what it means to live together as a society, you shall love the alien as yourself. I think that very statement is a way in which that we can mediate the evil that's both within us and that permeates our society. So think about that best friend again who you had in your mind's eye a little bit earlier. The connectedness that you feel with them is but a reflection of the connectedness that defines our social reality. In truth, as social beings, we are all connected. We must see ourselves in the other, in the least among us, and live into that vision that God has described for us in Revelation. When the Spirit took the prophet up to this interconnected and wonderful divine community, he said, behold, a great multitude that no one could number, from every nation, from all tribes and peoples and languages, standing before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed in white robes with palm branches in their hands. These are they who have come out of the great ordeal. They have washed their robes and made them white in the blood of the Lamb. Indeed, right now, we are living in a great ordeal. The great ordeal of a society that builds walls between us, that tells us that there is another, that we are not connected, that we should fear those whom society calls the least among us. I think that by embracing the other and by embracing their goodness, we can make room in our heart, push away the evil that is the dividing line within us, and become good creatures ourselves.